Hey there, it's Seb Fry here with another exciting episode of It's a Seb Show. Well, here we are, January 2021, and in the month of January, a lot of people like to do a year-end wrap-up and look back at the year past to, see what all happened and just try to sort of like digest it and make sense of it all. On my blog at sebfry.com, I did do 3 year-end wrap-ups of the real estate market for Santa Clara County, Santa Cruz County, and Monterey County. Wanted to go back and look and see what the data tells us about what happened to that market. Against all expectations, against all prognostications, the market did extremely well in all 3 of those counties in 2020. I remember when the pandemic first hit, there were a lot of people who were saying, that's it, it's the zombie apocalypse. The market is going to implode, right? There's going to be blood in the streets, like this is the end. But the exact opposite happened. The market did take a lull, of course, when the shelter-in-place orders came down in March. So March and April were pretty slow months. But by May, when the shelter-in-place was modified to allow more or less normal real estate activity, the market then picked up right again and just kept on going. And in fact, December of 2020 was one of the most active Decembers that anybody can ever remember. So in those 3 counties, prices were up between 10 and about 15% for the year. That's comparing the whole entire year to the whole entire year that preceded it. And many different months, you saw different increases year over year. But it was a very, very active market. So I do encourage you to go onto sebfry.com and look for those market updates if you're curious. I will link to them here in the YouTube page for this video, so you can find those if you're curious about it. But yeah, tremendous market last year. There was 2 stories really with what's going on with the market, or maybe 3, maybe 10, maybe a million. Everyone has their own different stories for how the market went. But one of the hallmarks certainly of 2020 was the lack of inventory. It turns out that there were actually more listings last year in 2020 than in 2019, but the number of sales was up way more. Most listings ended up selling in most of those counties. About 85% or so, again, depends on the market. That's kind of like an average. 85% of all listings sold, which is certainly much higher than in a normal market. We also found that the sales to list price ratio was much higher on average for 2020 than in 2019. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that buyers were just making very strong offers in 2020 because there was so much competition that people were just writing their best offer right out of the gate and hoping that that would actually take the prize. And in many cases, it did. So it was a very interesting market. There's lots of numbers to crunch in those year-end market wrap-ups. So I encourage you to take a look at those. If you love numbers and you love charts and data, there's plenty of that in there for all of you numbers people. But if you're not a number person, I think that the more important question is what does last year tell us about this year? Of course, we don't actually have any reliable numbers because the future is very hard to accurately predict in terms of numbers, what exactly is going to happen, how many houses are going to sell, the average days on market, median price, and all that. But what we do know is that the real estate market, generally speaking, is kind of like slow moving, right? It's like when you want to turn a cruise ship around, it takes like a long time to like make a cruise ship actually like do a 180, right? Same thing with the real estate market. Like it's a very big, slow-moving market. People take months, or in many cases years, to decide to buy or sell a house. So those decisions don't change overnight, right? So we have such a big momentum behind us, right? There is such a big backlog of buyers, and there is still very few houses. I'm talking to some sellers now about putting their houses up for sale, and I'm doing the comparative market analysis for them, and I'll find plenty of sold comps, but when I look for active homes that might be their competition, I'm finding oftentimes none. Oftentimes no homes that are right in their immediate neighborhood, which are anything at all like the house which they have to sell. I've never actually seen that where there's no listings, and right now there are no listings. And so I think this is a condition which is going to persist with us for several months. There will be some new listings coming up, but I think that the number of buyers out there compared to the amount of inventory and potential inventory we're going to see here in the first few months of 2021 is very low. I just came back from showing property like an hour ago, and there was a line of people out the door. Everyone was allowed 15 minutes. That's it, to go in and out of the property. Because of COVID, we can't have two parties in the property at the same time, right? So everyone had to have their turn. There was a line of people. I mean, there were throngs of people standing outside this house waiting to get in. And why is that? It's because there's nothing for sale. So, I don't want to predict like what's going to happen with home prices in 2021. I mean, well, I can predict they're probably going to go up, but I don't know certainly by how much. They could go down. Who really knows? But I do know that right now, certainly, the market is piping hot. There's nothing out there for sale right now. So sellers are having a field day. So I'm going to write up an offer right now for my clients. And the big question is, how much more than asking price are we going to have to offer in order to get this? I wrote up an offer last night. There were 4 offers on the property in a day and a half. And we are way over asking price, and the buyers are like, really? Are you sure, Seb? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that's what we're gonna have to do. So listen, if you're thinking about selling your house at the beginning of 2021, I gotta tell you, this is an incredible market in which to do so. And if you're thinking about buying a house in the beginning of 2021, you better prepare for battle, because it's going to be ugly trying to get into a house this early in the year, certainly. All right. Well, that is it for this episode of It's a Seb Show. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, would you do me a favor? Could you give me a like? Could you give me a thumbs up? Could you give me a comment or even a share if you would share this with somebody that you know who is thinking about buying or selling a house here in 2021? I would really appreciate it. And don't forget to go onto my website and look at those year-end wrap-ups for Santa Clara County, Santa Cruz County, and Monterey County. All right, that's it for this episode of It's a Seb Show. Thank you so much for watching, but don't worry. I will have another episode up again before too long.